Hello, and welcome to the Southeastern Sports Insider podcast. My name's Alex. I'm here with Dom Cecilia and Harrison Bledsoe. Today we are talking about our March Madness predictions as Selection Sunday is coming up here. Let's head into our first segment. So first things first, what teams are in and what teams are out?
So the first team to look at is Rutgers. They're currently sitting at 18-12. They have a lot of really good wins on the year.
Really good wins. A couple losses though were really exposed
couple bad
their
losses.
weaknesses. A team like Rutgers, they're a shooting team.
Yeah.
You watch their play. Everything they do about their play is to get open and to shoot well. And you will always have those nights where you don't shoot well, and that's the nights that they lose.
Yeah. I think they're a good team though. They did spin in late February where they beat like 4 ranked teams in a row and then went on to play a ranked Purdue team. And
they're a great team.
Yeah.
They're a great team, but they're an inconsistent team.
Yes.
Is the problem. And if you look at, I think what happened earlier on in the year, though, I don't think you should even pay attention to that. This is a completely different team since then. They've bonded as a team. They've gotten better as a team. They've overall just transformed into a different team. But I think anything before the first time they played Purdue is kind of just...
The first time they played Purdue showed how good this team could be.
Yeah.
Because that game was exciting all around, but they should not... The fact that they won that game is absurd, but the fact that they were even close is even more crazy. Because we should have blown them out by 20.
Yeah.
And we didn't because they shot well. And when a shooting team shoots really well like they did that night, then they're almost unstoppable.
Yeah. This is a team that they have been really good on certain nights. Like you look at beat Iowa, blew out Michigan State, beat Ohio State,
beat Wisconsin,
beat Illinois, beat Purdue. But then you also see their games like they barely beat Penn State and they had a loss to Northwestern.
Had a loss to Maryland too.
Yeah. Games like those, just everything we've listed, you just see this is a very inconsistent team. And that's why I just feel like it depends on what they do in the Big Ten tournament to kind of get their momentum towards the NCAA tournament. Because I feel like they are in. I think they will be in March Madness no matter what.
Yeah.
But it's just what they will do once they get there. That's the biggest question.
Right. And I think it comes down to who they play.
Yeah.
Because if they play a team that they can get into a shootout with and have a chance to get hot, like a really non-defensive team but a good offensive team, then they have a solid chance to make a run if they have a good path. But if they go up against a team that's going to play physical, that's going to bury them down in the paint and is going to really just tire them out on the defensive side of the court, then I think they're a first-round exit.
So the thing about Rutgers is a lot of pretty much all of their best wins have been at home. And that's something we know about Rutgers. Definitely use their home court advantage to benefit them,
yes,
which all teams do, but Rutgers really capitalizes on it. But we saw them travel to Indiana, and they got a win there. And I think that is one of the most impressive wins they have on the year.
use a hostile environment.
Yeah.
That's a hard place to play.
And that was a game that they know, both teams knew, whoever wins is in the tournament.
Yeah.
And Rutgers came out, did what they had to do, and I think that shows that this is a very good team. I think after that Indiana win, they could be as bad as a 12 seed, but I think they'll be more around a 10 seed.
Yeah.
And I think you could easily see them beating a 7-seeded team in the tournament.
Yeah, but if they end up down the path against a team like Duke, which I don't know where they'll be at in the bracket, but if they end up crossing paths with a team like Duke or a team like Gonzaga where they play with a little bit extra physicality on the end, that's definitely the aspect that can cause this team to crumble, is that physical contact, we're going to attack you, not just shoot over you.
Mm-hmm. There also with a team like Rutgers, there is that scenario where it's not anything in particular, but they just come out and it's just not their night.
Yeah.
I mean, we could easily see them drop a game that even we think they're favored in, but they lose that game because they just have had their nights where they're not good at all.
Yeah.
But I think Rutgers is for sure in March Madness.
Perfect.
So next we have IU.
Playing game if they're lucky.
I think with a win against Michigan,
With a run in the conference tournament.
I think all they need is a win against Michigan, and they would be in, at least in the first 4. I mean, obviously 18-12 is not good, And their Big Ten record is even worse than that, 9-11.
Yeah.
But this is a team that has been very good at times.
At times.
Yeah.
When very unexpected players have a good showing.
Yeah. They have a lot of solid players on their team.
They have solid players.
Obviously, TJD is one of the best players in college
And
basketball.
here's the thing about IU is it IU men's basketball or is it Trace Jackson Davis basketball?
Yeah.
Because you watch their team, if Trace Jackson Davis comes out cold, they're like, oh no, we need to find a solution now. They don't have a guy that they can go to, or they don't have a concept that they can go to where if he's cold for a little bit, they still produce. Mm-hmm. If they come out of tip and Trace Jackson Davis misses his first 2-3 shots, they're in trouble.
Yeah. I feel like we kind of saw that in the Rutgers game,
Yeah.
as well as the Purdue game. Even though they did hold their own, especially at Purdue, only losing by 2 points. That's not a game that you can hold down on them.
Yeah.
But we did see that was a game where TJD was certainly off.
Mm-hmm.
He had definitely less than 10 points in that game.
He had 8 points that game. Yeah. And then when you watch that game, you get to you had what's his name? Xavier
Johnson.
Xavier Johnson.
He had a good game.
He had a good game, but you could see how that was kind of throwing him off a little bit. Because when you start having a good game, you're like holy crap, like I'm having a good game. And once you started getting towards the end of the game, you see him getting tired, and you could see him being like, there's a lot of pressure. Because that's how IU basketball works. They always have that one guy where they're like, this is our guy, and he's going to win games for us. But when he doesn't win games for you, you other guys don't know how to win games because they've never had to do it before.
So I think this IU team I think they're a pretty consistent team. I just think they consistently take every game down to the wire.
Yes.
Even if it's games that, even if it's against a really good team, they're up big, and then they let the team come back, and more than not this season, they have lost those games.
And when you get, even if they do make it into March Madness, when you're a team that does that, you're not going to get far. Because when you have day after day after day, game after game, where you're playing down to the wire, it gets to you, and it really starts to take a mental toll, and teams like that won't make it far.
See, this is a great team because obviously, if you can keep it a close game with the top teams in the country, that shows you're a really good team.
Yeah.
But at the same time, losing by 5 in every game does not get you in the tournament. Their problem is they just don't have any huge wins to make up for their record.
Yeah.
I mean, they have the win against Purdue.
At home in a rivalry game.
Yeah.
There's lots of argument you can make with that. Should have Purdue won that game? Absolutely. But yeah, I mean, that was a rivalry game. Yeah. There's lots of reasons, lots of emotions that go into that game. And it's very good to see it finally be close again. They are a competitor. They're a good basketball team, but they play to their competition.
Definitely.
So when you get into a tournament, you can't do that. You need to play your basketball the whole time.
See, I think Rutgers is an example of what IU could have been this year. I think they're two similar teams. The difference is Rutgers finishes games.
Rutgers plays like a team.
Yeah.
Rutgers gets lucky. They hit game winners. That's the difference between them.
But they put themselves in a position to hit game winners.
IU can't hit game winners.
I mean, IU hit a game winner against Purdue, too. So.
Yeah. So, on to TCU. TCU
The Horned Frogs.
Well, they're actually pretty good this year.
Are they?
Yeah.
I don't know anything about these guys.
They played Kansas in back-to-back weeks. At home, they beat Kansas by 10, and then they played at Kansas and lost by 4. And you're thinking this team is definitely going to be in the tournament. And then they travel to West Virginia and lose by 6 points. And if I'm being honest, I think that knocks them out of the tournament. I mean, they have some great wins, but just overall they haven't been great. I think they were a bubble team. They still are. But I think they were in, and I think that West Virginia loss knocked them out. Mm-hmm. And I think they definitely now have to do something in the Big 12 tournament.
I think at 19 wins, though, you still have to consider them. They're still on that list.
19 wins with a win against Kansas. You're definitely on the list. But I think they definitely need to get a win or two in the Big 12 tournament to show that they can be good teams.
Yeah.
And with the Big 12 this year, I just don't know if they can.
Yeah.
So as of now, I'm going to say TCU is probably not going to make March Madness.
I would see them in a playing game.
I think they're going to be in.
I think they're in the first 4.
I mean, they have a good win against Texas Tech, too.
Yeah, that is a good win.
All right, Michigan. great team at times, and under very preferable circumstances. I think the best example of this is when they beat Purdue. Beat Purdue by 25 to 30 points. It was ridiculous. Worst night of my life.
Yeah,
But you look at the conditions, though. They played them 4 days before that at Mackey. Then you have Purdue traveling to Illinois to play Illinois at Illinois, a very big game implication-wise for Big Ten. And Purdue pulled through. They
had a good win.
They had a fantastic game, and then they head out to Michigan, a hostile environment at Michigan, not without even time to stop at home. And they head out there, and you just could see it. They were cold. They couldn't hit any shots. Yeah. And in addition to that, Michigan was
shot lights out.
On fire.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous. So
Michigan has definitely had their games where they have looked like a really good team, like a top 25
There's a
team.
reason preseason they were number 4.
Yeah.
But there's also a reason they're now unranked.
They've got wins against Ohio State, wins against Michigan State, wins against Rutgers, a win against IU, and obviously the win against Purdue.
Mm-hmm.
They've got games like those where they look like a really, really good team. And then they have their losses by 20 points, which they have their fair share of.
I could see whoever wins the game, Michigan, IU, makes the tournament.
Yeah, I think that is a play-in game. Now, do note, though, that record is not right. They're 17-13.
Today.
But I still think that
What's their conference? They're a losing conference record, right?
They are
like 7-9.
They are 11-9.
11-9. Okay.
I think they also had a really hard out of conference schedule.
Yeah.
I think if Michigan beats IU, they're in for sure. I think even if they lose, they still have a shot to get in. But I think for IU, if IU beats Michigan, they're in. But if they lose, they're out. But I think Michigan could get in either way.
All right, so Memphis, our final bubble team, youngest team in college basketball, very intriguing team.
Yeah.
19-9, but how much of those are actually like good wins?
So they're 19-9, but they have 2 wins against Houston, which those are great.
Those are great.
They have a win against Alabama.
That's a good team.
They have a lot of quality wins. Their losses are all against pretty solid programs. They lost. Yeah, Georgia's a bad loss, but they lost to Murray State, a loss to Iowa State. Those are 2 tournament teams.
Mm-hmm.
And then their other losses have just been in conference, which you have those.
Yeah.
And 2 losses to SMU, who is another tournament team.
So hearing that and looking at 19-9 record, I mean, this team should be in the tournament.
Yeah.
What would stop them from being in the tournament, though?
I think if they are a first-round exit of the American tournament, or actually, I think if they don't at least go to the semifinals of the American tournament, because they're obviously not in a very good conference.
Right.
There may be 3 tournament teams in that conference if they're lucky, and that's obviously Houston, SMU, and Memphis.
Yeah.
So I think they got to do good. This is a team, though, that they could have had a really good resume. They had a game scheduled against Tennessee,
but it got canceled.
So that is a shame. They could have picked up a good win there, or they could have gotten blown out.
Yeah.
But this is a team I know that they have had a lot of turnovers this season.
Yeah.
And that has lost them a lot of their losses.
But
and
when we look at like points scored, we're looking at that. It's like a different score each game. Which that could be, it's kind of like what you were talking about, IU, when Trace Jackson isn't playing well, then it's like a different score that has to pick up each game, which that could be interesting.
And especially with young teams like this, it's always hard to talk about how they'll do in a tournament like March Madness because it's so different from what you faced all season long.
Yeah, I think if they get in, they could do really well.
Yeah.
I think they will get in.
Yeah. I do too, looking at their record.
They were very young. They have 2 17-year-olds on their team. Starting.
They have Imani Bates, right?
Yeah. They have Imani Bates. He canceled his last year of high school.
He was the number 1 player in the country.
To come to Memphis.
Is he starting?
Yeah, I think so. But I don't know how good he's been.
I'm paying attention to Rutgers. The American's been so bad this year. So now
Final 4.
Yeah.
Purdue's definitely there.
I don't think so.
They're there.
I'll tell you my Final Four right now.
Okay.
Tell me.
And I know that I'm going to get some disagreement with this. Arizona, can't disagree with that. Duke, I think with Coach K's last year, they step it up and they get there.
After that loss to North Carolina, Duke has looked phenomenal in some games. When you look back when they played Gonzaga, they were amazing in that game.
Yeah. Now, I don't think Gonzaga is making it that far in the tournament.
I think they're the type of team where, once again, they have some physical aspects. They're really good. You watch their big man play. He's really good down in the post, but once it comes to like a physical guy that is gonna dominate you, like
Zach Edey.
like that big
Drew Timmy?
Duke has.
Oh, yeah.
Last name Williams, I think. I can't remember his name. But
I thought you were talking about
that guy dunked on Gonzaga's big man at least 3 times, and he physically abuses you in the post. And so if Gonzaga, and you saw the result of that in the Gonzaga-Duke game, where Gonzaga lost pretty handily. And if Gonzaga faces a team like that in the tournament, they're losing.
Yeah. Now, I do think that Gonzaga could play really good in the tournament.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Drew Timmy is possibly the best player in college basketball.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think they could lose in the second or third round.
Yeah.
Now, they're not going to be a first-round exit.
No.
That's obvious. But I don't know when they play. I mean, we really don't know. We haven't seen them play a really good team. The only time we've seen them play a tournament team has been St. Mary's and San Francisco, which San Francisco is a lower-level tournament team, and San Francisco stuck with them for the whole game.
Yeah.
But also St. Mary's, I mean, their last 2 times they've played, which kind of Gonzaga's in question is the last month or so.
Yeah.
And then the last month or so, the only time they played another not top team, but a high-level team, they split with them, St. Mary's.
Yeah.
So I think this team could easily lose a game they're not supposed to and get knocked out of the tournament.
Yeah.
But back onto my Final Four. Arizona, they are so good. They have looked like, in my opinion, the best team in college basketball through the season. Obviously, they have some bad losses, but every single team has bad losses this year.
Yeah.
This is unlike any year in college basketball
This is
ever,
a phenomenal year of college basketball.
Every team can lose any day.
Yeah.
But I've got Arizona in the Final Four. Baylor, if they're healthy, Baylor will go to the Final Four. Baylor's really good. Obviously, the defending champs brought pretty much everyone back, and I think they're better. Duke, Coach K's last year, I think they're going to make a run and do it for Coach K. I don't know if they'll win the national championship. I don't know who's going to win. This is just my Final Four. The fourth one. Are you guys ready for this? Murray State.
No.
Yes.
No.
Murray State in the Final Four. Yes.
Nope. Here's the correct Final Four just for you. Correct Final Four. You're gonna have Duke, physical team. Coach K's last year, he's making a run. He wants one more, especially after that North Carolina loss. You see him walk out on the court, take a mic, say, "This is unscripted. I'm sorry that we lost to that team. That should not have happened." He is not happy, and his team is gonna prove how good they actually are in this tournament.
I think that game will serve as sort of a wake-up call.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen that for many teams. They lose to a bad team, and then after that, they just take off and end up making a run.
There's going to be a trail of fire after Duke blazes through these first couple rounds of March Madness.
I mean, you know that Coach K.
He's not going to
mad.
talk. He is.
They are going to beat up on the ACC tournament.
Yes.
There is not a team in there that I don't think won't lose by 30 points to them.
Yeah.
I think that team is going to be scary.
Duke is a dominant basketball team.
I think for the next 2 weeks, we're not going to see Duke have a game within 20 points.
Yeah.
Until we get towards maybe the Sweet 16.
Mm-hmm.
What?
Nothing. Keep going.
Second team,
Who's your Final Four?
Duke, Purdue.
They could easily get there.
If Purdue plays like they played, like in the out-of-conference tournaments where they played a bunch of ranked opponents, you had that span. They beat North Carolina and then went beat Villanova. If they played like they played then, and if they played
like they played against Illinois,
yes, then phenomenal. if you use the pieces that if they use the pieces that they have, you have a 7'4", 300-pound big man. You have freaking Jaden Ivey. You have shooters and Stefanovic, and then you have the best sixth man in college basketball, Travion Williams. You have young guys like Caleb First, and then you have
Ivy.
shooters, and you have all Big Ten defensive team.
Eric Hunter.
Yeah, they're a phenomenal group, and they're a great team.
I think it depends on how they shoot.
Yeah.
But I think they could easily lose a game. I mean, we've seen games where they have just been ice cold.
Right.
But that's every team this year.
Yeah. You always have a game where shots just don't fall.
And that's why I think this is going to be the craziest March Madness ever.
Right.
And I think that's going to include Gonzaga and Purdue losing games they're not supposed to.
I think Purdue
Unless Jaden Ivey plays like a John Morant level.
Purdue more than most has an answer to shooting cold though. You have big man that could just go inside and dunk the ball. And it's hard to miss a dunk.
You say they have an answer, but what was their answer against Michigan?
They have an answer. The Michigan was a very adverse situation, and there was more than one issue going into
I think there are going to be more adverse situations than Michigan.
Purdue did have an answer to shooting cold. They still put up plenty of points to win that game. It's just Michigan was blazing hot. Like that court was on fire.
There were a lot of turnovers that game too.
Yeah.
What's the rest? You got 2?
Yep. I got, what have I said? Duke, Purdue. I got Gonzaga, and then I have Arizona.
Okay. So Arizona, great pick. I think Gonzaga could get there, but I think it's the same as Purdue.
I think Gonzaga comes down to their path. Like I said earlier, if they play a couple physical teams, at some point they're going to start to crumble.
See, I think Gonzaga, I mean, the only comparison I can think of right now, the best analogy I can make, they're the Cincinnati of college football, but of college basketball this year. I think
they're not going to get blown out by 40 points.
Cincinnati didn't get blown out by 40 points.
They got blown out.
It was like 20.
Oh, my bad.
But
20.
I don't know.
Only 20 points.
I don't think Gonzaga gets blown out. But I think
I'm ready.
I think they are way overrated because they have not played anyone this year. And we see them lose.
But they have a history, though. They have made it through March Madness.
Yes.
Recently.
But, I mean, North Carolina has a history. I don't think you should bring it history.
And North Carolina just blew out Duke.
Yeah. But I just think Gonzaga, the one time, so we see them traveling to St. Mary's. That's the most adversity they've faced all year since the start of the season. Since they started in conference play, St. Mary's was the only adversity they've faced. And they lost. And guess what happened? Nothing. They stayed the number 1 team in the country. Now, did they deserve to? Probably, because every other team lost. But I just don't think they have what it takes to make a run.
Okay, so it's my
Harrison,
turn.
go.
Okay, Final 4. Auburn is making it. None of you guys said Auburn in there. They're the best team in the country. A month ago,
No.
they have the best player in the nation.
No.
He's the number 1 pick. Auburn makes it. Kentucky, great team, great depth. Shaden Sharp, Oscar, that big center.
Sheboy.
What? Yeah.
Sheboy.
He's insane. Purdue. Jaden Ivey had 10 points against IU. He is about to have the best March Madness performance ever. Lead them to the national championship. Go number 1 overall pick. And then we got Tennessee.
Holy SEC.
Tennessee is making it. That's all I got to say. That's my Final 4. Tennessee, Purdue, Auburn, Kentucky.
So I think for my Final 4, if Murray State does not make it,
Murray State is not making it.
it's
No.
going to
They're
be
a first-round exit.
Kentucky or Arkansas.
Murray State's a first-round exit.
I go with Kentucky
Tennessee-
or Arkansas. Arkansas is,
Tennessee killed Arkansas.
yeah, that's true.
At Tennessee. Arkansas also beat Tennessee.
And Tennessee probably has
The
the
SEC
most hostile fan base ever to exist.
Tennessee is a good team.
With the SEC, if you bring up the top 4 teams, obviously are the top 4. So we brought on a very knowledgeable person on college basketball.
Oh, yeah.
And in life in general, Davis Brown. So we're going to talk about our
to be
Cinderella picks for the season.
All
Davis, do you want to start?
Yeah, I have a few teams in mind. I think my favorite team right now is Texas Tech. They're 5th in defensive efficiency, and they have some quality wins, like Tennessee. They beat Baylor twice. They beat Kansas, which is a good win.
Yeah.
They also lost to them in overtime, so it's not like there's much of a gap there. And they also beat Texas twice. So, I mean, they have
Good
the wins. They have everything they need. They have a high-powered defense, and they have an offense that can do enough to close out games, and I think they're a Final Four contender.
Yeah, that's a really good pick. I think Texas Tech is a very good team that has not received a lot of attention this year.
Yeah. And I think another one I got is UNC. After the win versus Duke, it kind of like shined light on Armando Bacot, and like I think they can do enough. Like R.J. Davis, Caleb Love, a freshman. They got some other guys. They got some shooters, and they can run the pace against good teams like Duke and other good teams.
Yeah, R.J. Davis is a stud. I
Yeah.
think he could definitely on his own lead this team to
Yeah.
a big run.
And Bacot, I think, is top 10 player in the country in
Yeah,
general. He's really
100%.
emerged.
Yeah. Oh, one Cinderella team that I have. I also have a few.
Don't
One-
even say Bryant.
I like Bryant.
Have you watched Bryant?
Bryant's awful.
Harrison, you don't even know where they are.
I have no idea who they are.
One team I'm going to say is Bryant. Bryant played yesterday. They're in the NEC conference, I believe. Yeah, they're in the NEC conference. They absolutely breezed through their conference tournament. They won in the championship by 20, which the conference championship featured a 30-minute delay due to the student section getting in a fight with parents.
Oh, yeah.
And, yeah, they just looked really good in their conference tournament, and I think they could make a run. Now, it depends on what seed they get. If they're a 16 seed, I don't think they will.
Yeah, so they're going to be a first-round exit and lose by 20.
Another one to look at is Chattanooga.
That's what I like to
I
see.
like them.
Chattanooga is really good. I think they're a very good team. Another team that breezed through their conference tournament pretty easily. They're not going to be a super low seed. They're going to be right around that 12-13 mark. So I think they could face a team that they could easily beat.
I got another one. I think Davidson could do some damage in the tournament. They have Foster Lawyer, who transferred from Michigan State, didn't get a lot of playing time there, and now he's there, and he's an elite scorer. They are 9th in offensive efficiency. They can get really hot from outside, and I think they can make the Sweet 16 if they get a good if they get some easier opponents, not some like other hot teams right now. I think they can do some damage and maybe force a couple upsets.
Yeah, I watched Davidson, I believe, against Dayton. And that was a very good win they picked up, and they looked really good in that game.
Thank you for joining us today, Davis.
Thanks for having me.
All right. And for that, we're going to wrap up today's episode of Southeastern Sports Insider Podcast. Make sure to check out more HSC news on hscnews.com, as well as further podcasts, which will post Fridays at 3 p.m. Thank you.